Back in 2010, Marvel was on its second huge breakout with the introduction of the MCU in the earlier year 2008. As we know now, Marvel has really had the one-up on DC in the aspect of films. Hopefully with James Gunn's vision that will change, because God knows that The Rocks didn't pan out so well.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
But something that people overlook at times is a whole other genre of media that comic book fans consume that DC has taken over in the race for years now. This being animation. This goes for shows and films. While Marvel has had some success in the animated TV shows and movie scene, most of them fell flat upon release. So bringing it back to 2010, as I find myself wishing that we would. I'm waiting for the next Nyan Cat compilation, the big 2025. Marvel stepped up once again and released the most faithful interpretation and the best storylines of the Marvel heroes and villains that we have seen since the comics. Or at least that's what the community has been telling themselves. Today I am on a mission to find out if they are telling the truth, or if the nostalgia rose-tinted glasses are doing the talking once again. So come along with me in the first episode of Retro Rewatch, where we put nostalgia to the test. Earth's Mightiest Heroes is a relatively short show, only coming in at 2 seasons. But the major consensus from fans is that the first season is really where it's at. So, of course, I watched it. I'm a huge fan of Marvel, as you guys know, so I am very particular with what I like in these individual characters. I first want to talk about an overall view of what this show does right, once again according to the first season, and things that don't really work well in my eyes. And then we'll get into a breakdown of what happens in the show for the folks that are very storyline driven. First thing that I want to talk about briefly is the pacing. I feel like the Saturday morning cartoon vibe is a lost art. I feel like we don't get shows nowadays that you can kind of hop in at any point and it's like, oh, here's our characters, here's an adventure gets resolved. And I think that that's kind of unfortunate. Granted, I'm sure Cartoon Network has some shows that they play and stuff like that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, the Danny Phantoms, the Avatars, the Powerpuff Girls? Fairly Odd Parents. Like, those are just fun shows to watch. But I do think that Earth's Mightiest Heroes encapsulates that vibe pretty well. The storylines are about 2 episodes. Like, you can watch 2 episodes and then that's that storyline on the kind of longer episodes. And there is some things that like start at the first of the season, they come back at the end of the season. But if you haven't watched the full season, you don't need to. Another good plus about this show is that every character feels like they are needed and they bring something to the table. The only one that you can debate on is Black Panther, unfortunately. And that's not even really true to the most part, because there is scenes where Black Panther is alongside Tony and he's helping him out and he is using his brains and his resources, but he's probably the one that gets the least amount of screen time. The MCU tends to use characters as plot points in order to get to point B from point A, and they never really give them the opportunity to shine again. While on the contrary, this show takes its time, you know, gets comfortable with these characters and honestly treats everybody like a main character, and I think that that is awesome. They all have episodes where it's their time to shine, and it keeps on reoccurring, which I think is really cool. For instance, Wasp. Wasp is the coolest character probably in the show. She's fun, she's a good main character, and you like riding along with her. Now, you compare that to the MCU, Wasp is kind of like... Another great example of this is Hulk. I mean, Hulk in the MCU, you guys know how that is. Hopefully with Brand New Day, he'll get revived. But I don't know, I like what they did with him. At the very start of Hulk's introduction, it goes really deep into like the mental battles that Bruce Banner and Hulk have together and how, you know, they combat each other. And I think it's done perfectly. Also, not just the heroes, but the villains are really cool in this show. There is so many cool characters that are just in this show that, you know, a lot of people don't know about. There is villains I didn't know about. And I think that's really cool. I think that Saturday morning style cartoons, the best thing that they can do is introduce new concepts to casual viewers. And I think that this show is really good at that. With that being said, I do think that this show is great for first-time viewers of Marvel or anybody that's trying to dive a little bit deeper into Marvel, like let's say they watch a couple MCU movies, they really like it, they want to see more of the characters, and they're kind of afraid to dive into the comics because it's a little bit more intimidating. I think that a show like this is a really good, you can get into this, and if you like this storyline, then these are the comics you can read for that. I think that's what this show does really good. Now, this show is not perfect. Some episodes can get a tad boring. Not a lot, but it's definitely worth mentioning, especially with the season containing 26 episodes. Most of the big fights are kind of base level and not really thinking out of the box. And I do think that that is a really big con because there is shows like Avatar where the fight scenes are just like jaw-dropping. I'm not saying that this show should be like an anime by any means, but I definitely do think that shows like Avatar have kind of set the standard for that time and future shows in general. I think fights should definitely be influenced to be way more impactful than shows like this tend to do. I mean, it's what you're building up to, so they should be, you know, really intense and really cool. And not every fight is like that. I'm not saying that every fight is like boring or anything, because that's just not true. I definitely like the ones where it's like, whenever you're watching the fight, it's really fluid and it's really cool looking, but then they do something that's like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. I think that that just makes the show 10 times more enjoyable. It makes you feel like the journey has been completed, and I feel like that this show could have used some more work in that aspect. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, sure, you could say that like, oh, but you're comparing Avatar to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but I don't think that's a valid argument. I feel like Avatar is a great show, and if I'm comparing another cartoon, then I'm gonna compare it to the great show, you know, and I'm gonna compare the two. It's not like it's SpongeBob or something, you know. It does have a storyline and it does have all these stories, so it's like it should be carried out. The first portion of this season is introducing us to the Avengers without giving us origins, which obviously I appreciate. This is kind of rare in the 2010s, so I'm happy to see a show have confidence in the audience to know who Iron Man, Thor, Captain America is. Iron Man gets word that Hydra is invading New York, so he goes to stop it while also learning that S.H.I.E.L.D. is taking and using his technology. And that's pretty much the first episode without adding fluff to it. And that's what I'm gonna do for most of these. That's the base. That's what that episode is about. And this is also why 25-minute long episodes are good. It's not overwhelming. It's just a simple, that's the story. Tony's pissed off, he has a problem with S.H.I.E.L.D. It's like, that's kind of just it. You get a small story and a fun watch, and not too much happens. You get a problem? You solve it. Episode ends. Thor comes to New York and stops the wrecking crew from robbing some shipping containers, and he meets the one and only Jane Foster. Jane?
Jane?
Oh my gosh, bro. Thor: Love and Thunder. What a movie. In this episode, we really get a look into Thor as an Asgardian and noticing Jane's willpower to help people just because. He admires her for that, and I think it's so cool that they can just show that without shoving in your face that they'll eventually be in a relationship. It's the same way I feel about Hulk, because finally, he's not just the big green comic relief character. Sure, he is still a green tank, and he is still a funny character, but like I said before, we're shown the kind of more emotional side of Bruce and Hulk, and we actually only see Bruce like 3 times in this whole show, which I think is perfect. Bruce is boring for the most part, especially whenever he's put beside like Ant-Man, Tony, cooler scientist. I don't know, it's just like I'm chilling on Bruce Banner. Hawkeye gets betrayed by Black Widow, who is apparently working for Hydra, that dickhead. And we see Kang the Conqueror, who goes back in time to watch Captain America and Bucky Barnes take down the Red Skull. Like I said, probably like about 5 times on this channel, I like Kang the Conqueror quite a bit, but I think Doom is way cooler, and I'm happy that we did not get the Kang Dynasty in live action. But it works perfectly for a show like this, so I was happy. Kang is determined to put an end to Cap because Cap is the reason his timeline is dying, but not yet. Next, we get Hank Pym, Ant-Man, and Wasp taking down Claw and Whirlwind. Once again, Whirlwind. Probably somebody a lot of people, including myself, did not know. Also, Doughboy is in this show, which if you guys watch my shorts of me reacting to the show, he kind of looks disgusting. The Avengers fighting the human nut. Oh no.
Welcome to Avengers Mansion. Please identify yourself.
Splooge Man.
Did not know about that character. Alongside this, Manape takes down T'Chaka and becomes the king of Wakanda, leading to T'Challa donning the Black Panther suit and running away looking for assistance, knowing what's to come with M'Baku as leader. And that's pretty much the intros to the Avengers. What I didn't mention though is all of the different characters from so many different comic lines being introduced in these couple of episodes. I mean, people ranging from Enchantress, Dum Dum Dugan, Absorbing Man, Radioactive Man, Grim Reaper, and many, many more. I can confidently say that this show specifically made me actually fuck with Grim Reaper like quite a bit. He's pretty sick in the show. But also with that, there's many, many more characters to come. They don't stop. Pause. That is every one of my videos, I have to pause myself. For Marvel fans like me, this is the type of show I like. Showing me different characters I maybe have heard of, but also maybe I haven't. It's just a good time. After these episodes, we get our first arc, the Breakout and Team Assembly. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory for what is about to happen, but out of the 4 major supervillain holding cells, 4 of them have large-scale breakouts. To combat this, the gang team up and have to battle Graviton while he focuses on Nick Fury. Ever heard of Graviton? Neither have I. Another cool aspect about this show is that they're based on actual comic runs that you can read. For instance, episodes 6 and 7, Breakout 1 and 2, are based off of Avengers #1, Avengers Origin, and New Avengers issues 1 through 3, and I think that that is just sweet. I don't know how many of y'all will relate to this, but I used to play the Lego Star Wars Clone Wars. The Clone Wars Lego game. I forgot what it was actually called, but I'd never seen the Clone Wars. So whenever I played that and I watched, you know, however many episodes of the Clone Wars I watched, I didn't finish it. A lot of the episodes I'm like, oh, I've seen this before, like blah, 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 you know, it's like, I've played this. I know kind of how this episode is going to play out because I played the Lego game, and I think that that is just fun. It's better with comics because there's so much more you can read, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Captain America joins the team after being discovered in the ice, and we go through a couple more episodes of little battles until eventually T'Challa seeks the Avengers to help him with the problem with Manape. They agree and result in stopping Grim Reaper, Claw, and Hydra from obtaining vibranium. After this, the leader releases a dome of gamma radiation over the Cube, one of those supervillain prisons, which turns anyone inside of it into a gamma monster. Pretty sick. About at this time, I wish my gamma monster was getting some dome. The Avengers go in there with some like protective suits so they don't, you know, get gammified, but eventually they get overwhelmed and their suits give in, leaving them also becoming gamma monsters. With this being said, Hawkeye eventually convinces Hulk to go save the Avengers and fight the leader, Abomination, and Absorbing Man, which concludes the Breakout arc, solidifying the Avengers team. I don't know if you guys are big Hulk fans, but obviously Abomination, Absorbing Man, and the leader are big Hulk villains. And I just think it's cool. You know, you read the title like gamma radiation or gamma whatever, and you're like, okay, cool, this is gonna be a Hulk episode or like a Hulk bias episode. And that's just so fun. You know, that's fun. That's a fun watch. I like that. For the first portion of this series, I think it's very solid. Easy to grasp concepts. Put that down. And honestly, just a fun watch. I also feel like the episodes are very well structured in the way that it's not like, and here's Thor, and here's Hawkeye, and here is Iron Man. It's more or less like we have our story, and then you think to yourself, oh yeah, Black Widow, I wonder how she's gonna fit into all of this. Or no way Hawkeye's gonna wanna team up with them right now because of blah, 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 that happened. It's just fun seeing them form their team and kick ass. Our next arc is all about the stakes becoming more and more severe, and of course, the Kang Dynasty. Baron Zemo has formed his own super team to take out the Avengers called the Masters of Evil. What was the one in SpongeBob called? All right, I gotta look it up. Every villain is lemons? Okay, the bad guy club for villains. Yo, this is hard as hell. Hopefully I remember what picture this, and this one's fucking classic. Anyways, back to what I was saying, the Masters of Evil, including Wonder Man, Enchantress, Crimson Dynamo, Abomination, and Executioner. They take over the Avengers mansion, ran up in their crib, but eventually, obviously, lose. Thanks to Hawkeye and Black Panther, 2 Avengers they did not know about yet. Which is also fun about new team-up stories. There's just the possibility for, you know, new characters to join on and whatnot. We then, in episode 15, meet Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers. She is not Captain Marvel yet, but at the end of the episode, she is like seen levitating, so that is probably to come. I have a feeling she's not finished. The Kree sent a sentry to Earth since it sees Earth as a threat to them. So they try to blow us up, but eventually we just throw the sentry out into space. Also in this episode, we get a deeper look into Ant-Man and Wasp's love dynamic. Aww. Hawkeye is dead set on finding Black Widow since she slimed him out for Hydra, but Iron Man says no. But Captain America and Black Panther allow it, considering that they do expect Hydra, obviously, to be with her, and it would be stupid for him to go alone. Also along with us tags Mockingbird, who has a badass staff that extends. Like my wing. At the end of this episode, we get a sneak peek into the Skrulls, which I am very excited for, because that most likely means we will get more Fantastic Four, who have briefly showed up. Kang arrives from the 41st century with the mission of taking Cap down, since he is allegedly the reason for Kang's timeline to soon be destroyed. This is also based off of Avengers issue number 8. Almost all of these are based off of a comic, but for the big episodes, it's cool to see the comparisons. Iron Man tries to fight Kang while he invades Earth, but Kang cannot be found, just his scarab ship things. We do, however, eventually find it in space, and we go up there to put an end to all this. Ant-Man grabs his Ultron bots, yes, I did not misspeak, he has Ultron bots, and turns them into soldiers, which he was very hesitant on. But the purpose of this was to help them in battle because they're getting overran by these scarab ships and they needed, you know, eyes in the sky. So we had to use the Ultron bots, who are originally programmed to keep peace in the world. But Ant-Man is like, all right, well, if we're gonna need, you know, ships in the sky, guess I'll program them to be battle driven. Probably won't turn south. This in turn gives us the upper hand on these ships and we finally take down Kang. To wrap up this arc, we have a battle with Malekith, who tries to freeze Earth, and we get a special look at the Fantastic Four for like 2 seconds. In episode 21, Black Widow finally joins us. A little bit late in the series, but that's okay. She has been undercover for S.H.I.E.L.D. working for Hydra, but only her and Nick Fury know about it. Problem is that Nick Fury has been missing and Hydra has the Cosmic Cube. They eventually lose it, of course, but they did have it, which could have been really bad. Captain America finally grabs it, and whenever you have the Cosmic Cube, reality can pretty much warp to whatever you want it to be. But Cap didn't do anything to change reality. Or did he? Because we see Bucky fall out of the sky. Going into the final arc, we have Hank deciding that he's not fit for the Avengers because he doesn't like all the chaos and violence. While this dilemma is going on, Ultron overhears this and takes this into his own hands. How does he do that? Well, by simply erasing all of humanity, starting with the Avengers. This will obviously take out the problem with humanity and our chaotic emotions. Ultron is defeated for the time being, but not completely, as he transfers his AI to another hidden vessel in Hank's lab. But this battle did not come without any losses. Thor dies while trying to defeat Ultron. Ultron takes over all technology, including S.H.I.E.L.D., and launches missiles set to destroy everything. Something S.H.I.E.L.D. has for a if all else fails type of scenario. We see where Thor is, and it's a heaven-like place, as we see him laying in the grass with a shorty curled up right next to him. Until he remembers where he was. Enchantress took Thor and made him believe that he died, but in reality he didn't. He was just teleported. Thor, while being banned from Asgard because he chose Midgard instead, returns back to help seize Ultron. Hank goes inside the bot and he tries to download a virus-like code. Since Ultron was based off of human minds, that makes him a part of the problem. Therefore, he is the very thing he's trying to destroy. And so he does. The problem is that Hank still believes that this is all his fault, and Thor suspects that something bigger is coming. I like what they did with Ultron in this because he's not very super villainy. Like, there's some times where whenever he's talking, you can kind of almost get behind with what he's saying. It's not like he's trying to turn everybody into robots, but he's just like, I just need to get rid of humans because they're so chaotic. They never just want peace. From a fucked up higher being point of view, I can understand what he's saying. Yes, it's wrong, but I can understand what he's saying. Kind of like Thanos with like the, you know, if we snap half of the world away, then we can, you know, vegetation and world hunger and peace would thrive because we're not just filled, you know, with just a surplus of people. Anyways, I just like what they did with him. Thor was right about his suspicions. The Masters of Evil have planned an attack to bring the 9 realms to Earth and collide them all with the power of Asgardian stones, called Nornstones? Yes, okay, just wanted to make sure that they were called Nornstones. Once the spell has commenced, Zemo betrays Enchantress to try to rule them all, but Thor finally gets a hold of Mjolnir and is able to free himself and Enchantress. But Thor calls to the Avengers to break all of the stones, to which Enchantress says not to, but by that time it's already too late. Also in this episode, Hank retires from quitting. It's kind of a redundant phrase, but whatever. And he helps Wasp out, even after standing by his decision to quit. To end this episode, after we have destroyed the Nornstones, Thor returns to Asgard to see none other than Loki sitting upon Odin's throne. With Thor returning to Asgard, he was not the only Avenger to mysteriously appear in one of the 9 realms. All of them did, each being in a different realm. Cap finds Hela and his fallen soldiers in Niflheim, except Cap asks, if this is the land of the dead, then where's Bucky? Ooh. Ant-Man and Wasp are in Jotunheim. Iron Man is in Nidavellir, I believe. Hawkeye and Black Panther now are in Alfheim, after Black Panther was in Svartalheim, and Hulk is in Vanaheim. It's hard for our characters to make do in these different realms, but Tony eventually talks to and saves 2 of the dwarves, and he asks them if they have ever made a suit before, since his is destroyed, and he learned that they are the best blacksmiths, and they made Mjolnir. Finally, we get to the last episode of the season. Ant-Man, Wasp, Hulk, Black Panther, and Hawkeye arrive to Loki via wormholes, and they also are alongside allies from the different realms. As Thor is being prepared to be executed, they wonder where the others are. Where is everybody? Cap, while talking to Hela, is told that his death has been long overdue and he can get anything he wants if he submits. To which obviously he says no. Hoorah. But he is released under one circumstance. If he dies in battle, then Hela gets to keep his mortal soul. Whatever that means. Loki then releases Horfin, who is a huge ice wolf. Really big. Huge. I mean huge. But Captain America pulls up, Stars and Stripes, patriotic as hell. And he brings a battle to Loki, but he's far too powerful with the Odin Force. With all the Avengers weak from, battling the wolf that they eventually did take down, and then Loki is just soloing them, Tony finally arrives in Uru armor forged by the dwarves. The same metal as Mjolnir. And it looks badass. Looks cool. The dwarves kind of cucked. We then go into a big scrap with Loki, not only as the Avengers, but also Asgardians and elves from the different realms. Kind of a little bit of bars there. Ant-Man pulls out the Yggdrasil tree, releasing Loki of his power and returning it back to Odin, and then he places it right back where it was, keeping everything still intact. Odin then banishes Loki to the World Serpent. If you guys play God of War, you know who the World Serpent is. God of War fans, stand up. And the World Serpent can pretty much do whatever he wants to him. Have his way with him. Which we see Loki start to get poisoned by the serpent, and is screaming in pain/fear. Probably a mixture of both. Odin and Thor greatly appreciate and thank the mortals, and we return to the mansion, the crib, the spot, the pad, the Avengers trap house. Roll another one. Cap lays back in his room until he finds a reflection of Hela in his now shattered shield, and then gets barrel stuffed by a clone of himself. Trash ass camper. This goon is actually a Skrull, and then the Skrull says to a communication device in his ear that the infiltration has begun. First reactions. What did I think? What did I think about this, sitting down, watching it in full? How did I think? Some people are probably going to not agree with this, but I think that the final act, like I'm talking about the final fight, in general, I feel like it was kind of lackluster. It was eventful. I did like that it was Asgard and it was kind of, touching into Ragnarok a little bit, but I feel like it kind of could have been something else. I mean, they had so many cool villains introduced. I kind of wasn't expecting it to be Loki as the final villain. I honestly probably would have liked it better if we went back to Kang, if I'm being honest. But I am very excited for Doom. I want Doom. I want the Fantastic Four. That's what I want. Give it to me. I also want the Inhumans. Give me the Inhumans. I doubt they're in this show, but give me the Inhumans. I want the Inhumans now. But here's the big question. Does it stick the landing? Yeah, I do think that this sticks the landing. I think that this is a really good Saturday morning cartoon that you can throw on, learn a little bit more about Marvel. The stuff that it touches on, Hank, not thinking he's fit for the Avengers because he just wants to be a scientist. And he also worries about Wasp because Wasp, she kind of is more reckless, and Hank is a little bit more laid back. But, it's kind of like I'm doing this because of you, you're doing this because of me. It's just a cool dynamic. You got Bruce and Hulk. You got Iron Man, you know, he's creating villains and he's creating weapons that destroy shit. And then you got the magic side of things. Everybody has their problems and it's kind of coming together. And I think that that's really cool. It's also really cool. I didn't even bring this up, but there was like a scene where whenever Earth is getting frozen over, it's cool to see Hawkeye and Wasp. They're just like tanning outside and Hulk was swimming. I was like, that's cool. I like seeing like characters like that chill. Kind of like in X-Men 97, whenever they're all playing basketball together. I just think that's badass. Like that just seems sick. Comparative to the MCU, I mean, obviously the MCU is great. I mean, come on, the MCU is great. But this also is great too. I do think the MCU does things that are better. And I think Earth's Mightiest Heroes does things that are better. I think Wasp entirely is better in this. I think that she is way more comic book accurate. I like Hank Pym way more than Scott Lang. I'm gonna be honest. Scott Lang kind of kills Ant-Man for me. Sorry. Hulk, duh. Hulk is way better in this. Captain America, I mean, Captain America's sick in both. I mean, he's just a leader. He's badass. See, but here's the thing. If we get old Hulk back, I mean, in the old Secret Wars, in the 80s Secret Wars, Hulk was Smart Hulk and Captain America was just Captain America. Two people we don't have anymore. Not to mention Iron Man. I don't know what they're gonna do with Secret Wars. There's so many things that they... Anyways, we're not gonna get into Secret Wars. We're talking about Earth's Mightiest Heroes. There is storylines in here that I feel like would work really cool in the MCU, but I also think that some just do better in a show format, kind of like the Kang Dynasty. As a standalone animated narrative, I think that this does hold up, but it doesn't compare to like Avatar and stuff like that. I wish it did. I wish it did. I wish it did. But I like to talk. I get amped up whenever I'm talking about Avatar. You know, I get. Ooh, it does something to me. And not saying that this like show doesn't. Like, I feel like if I watch this with somebody and like we're, you know, yapping about it, I definitely could get a little bit. I could start getting a little bit antsy. I mean, you know, Avatar's Avatar. Come on. I wish it was a little bit more anime. You know, cartoons are very cool. It's very cool, man. But that's the thing, bro. It's two different shows. You got like the Saturday morning cartoon type shows, and then you got anime. Pick and choose, dog. I don't know. Can I not have a little mixture of both? Come on, man. What if it came out today? Would it still be good if it came out today? That's hard to say because stylistically, no. I don't think that stylistically it would hold up because it doesn't look as retro enough to compare like to X-Men. Storyline wise, I do think that a show like this would be really cool. Like, I think if this came out like right now, people would be in comment sections being like, oh, I really hope they bring this type of storyline to the show next season or blah, 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 blah. I think that a show like this would thrive nowadays. I do think so. One key thing about nostalgia is the theme song. Does this pass into pure nostalgia? In my personal opinion, I do think the intro and outro song is cool. But like, it's a skip. I'm gonna be honest, it's a skip. Whenever I'm talking nostalgia, chat, I'm talking Teen Titans. I'm talking, you know, Avatar. I'm talking Fairly Odd Parents, SpongeBob, like, you know, like intros that are like, man, this is getting me going. And I don't think that it's like that, which is unfortunate, but it is a good intro. It is a good intro, but it just doesn't compare to those things. As far as like the vibe, the Saturday morning cartoon vibe, I do think that this is very 2010s. It's homey, it's relaxing. Like, this is like, you can turn on like Cartoon Network or what was it on, like Disney XD. You can turn this on and be like, oh shit, Avengers are on, and you can watch this and have a good time. So I do think that it fits underneath that. Whenever I think of like a 2010s like cartoon, I honestly think of like Ultimate Spider-Man. I think that shows like that is like very 2010-esque. I think that it fits in that category perfectly. The thing about pure nostalgia too is that like people that grew up with this show, which I feel like is not that many, debatably, especially because it only had like 2 seasons. I mean, it doesn't even give a lot of time for people to really have a deep-rooted nostalgia for this movie or show. In my personal opinion, I feel like if you strip away all of the nostalgia, and I think if you have no bias, I do think that this is still a tight, bold adaptation of the Avengers classic storylines. I think that this is a good show. I'd be down for a 3rd season. I still need to watch season 2. I don't think that this show is purely nostalgic. I think it's a good show, and I don't think people are speaking with bias when they compliment this show. It's a valid show. My question is this your guys' Avengers? After re-listening to the story and, you know, seeing it pop up in your feed once again, do you feel like that this show is faithful to the Avengers? Do you have problems with it? I think for the most part, yeah. I think that this is a faithful adaptation. I don't really have a problem with any of the characters. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this show. Let me know your past with it if you have any history with this show. Mods, put up a poll. I had a blast with it. I think that this show definitely still holds up. Also, what show do I talk about next? Do I talk about maybe Spectacular Spider-Man? Wolverine and the X-Men? I've heard good things about that show. Perhaps even the Fantastic Four. 90s and the newer one. You know I love me my Fantastic Four. Like the video, subscribe. If you watched all the way through, go ahead and subscribe. Come on, give me some sugar. Looking up while saying give me some sugar is insane. If you subscribe in the next 5 seconds, I will not banish you to the world serpent. Take it or leave it.